The Dune sequel from Denis Villeneuve has been delayed till March 2024, and it's my belief it has nothing to do with the strikes going on in Hollywood right now. Isn't it interesting? Just after WB gave Tom Cruise and Paramount the latest Mission Impossible some IMAX screens, Tom Cruise just happened to be rumoured to like The Flash. Is that a little bit of a coincidence to you? So they've done it before. And now, as soon as the Dune sequel from Denis Villeneuve is delayed till 2024, we're hearing the Marvels will get the IMAX screens that movie would have had. Suspicious much? Well, I am suspicious. I am very, very suspicious. And I asked the question, how does this work? Because I don't understand. Do WB make money for giving Disney these screens they were going to have for the Dune sequel? Yes, I'm very, very dubious about this situation. I believe it's nothing to do with the industrial action. And if I'm so far from the truth, why isn't Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom also being delayed? So I believe by the end of this year, these strikes will be over. I don't think they're as far away from an agreement than they're letting us think. So I wouldn't worry about this delay. I am not frustrated by this delay. I don't think it's a big deal. I would have loved to have seen the Dune sequel this year, of course. But I think this is desperate WB making some money because, listen, you know, once you give away your screens that, I don't know, you paid for, I don't understand. I don't get how it works. But for me, it's very, very suspicious. Now, I think there's a King Kong Godzilla film that WB have also delayed till next year. It'll be interesting who gets those screens as well. So I don't believe that this has anything to do with the industrial action, but it's a very, very clever way of making it look like that it is. And you know, who gets hurt by all of this? It's the fans. Nobody else. WB will make a lot of money on the Dune sequel when it's finally released. I don't believe it actually will be released in March of 2024. I just think that's a pit stop date. They were doing this all the time during COVID. It's the same thing yet again, but this time it's under the guise of the strikes in Hollywood. And it's a very weird time to be a fan of movies, because these delays were something we wasn't sure would start happening. There were rumours a very, very long time that the Dune sequel would be delayed, and then there were denials, and then they went and did it anyway. Because even though I'm not frustrated and angry about this, because as long as I see this film eventually, I'm happy and I'm okay with it. But don't go falling for this thing that it's all about the strikes. I believe that's the lie. They're selling this decision under, because as I say, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, which basically is going to have some big competition on its release, is not being delayed. So why wouldn't they want to delay Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom? Because they want these DCEU movies out the way and done. They can't delay the final DCEU movie till next year. It's something that James Gunn wouldn't want. And even with my criticisms of James Gunn, I don't blame him. He wants these lead weights, these dead weights out the way and done. Because they're damaging to the DC brand. The Hamadaverse was utterly damaging to the DC brand. It's not the Snyderverse. The two Snyderverse movies did very well. They did good, solid box office. And that's undeniable. Man of Steel and Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice were not financial flops. Did they not make what the studio wanted them to? No, they didn't. But that's different. You know, I could buy a bunch, 200 Coca-Colas and try and sell them at a market stall, and I don't make what I thought I was going to make because they're Coca-Cola. Why aren't people buying Coca-Cola? Batman and Superman are literally, you know, the comic book version of Coca-Cola. They should be making loads and loads of money in their movies. Record-breaking money. We know that. So, yeah, I don't think they have any intention of delaying Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, and I don't want that film delayed. I want that film released. I want it out of the way so we can see what James Gunn's going to do. And the sooner, the studios in Hollywood can negotiate a fair deal with the actors, with the writers, the better. Because it's ridiculous the way Hollywood is run. There is no governmental agency policing Hollywood. It's a cowboy state. The studios run it as they see fit. Here's my analogy on how they treat the actors and the writers. It's like the old coal mining days. They used to send the children down there, whip them if they didn't work fast enough, and pay them about a penny, a dime, whatever it was. Probably a month, a week. This is the kind of archaic practices that are being run in Hollywood. Now, I've understood how Tinseltown has worked for a very long time. And when I was out there for 6 months, it did raise my eyebrows. They get paid very, very little. David Ayer has been talking about writing the Fast and the Furious movie and how he made very little money and got very little credit for doing that movie. This is $1 trillion movie franchise and David barely made anything from it. How can that be fair? And this is how it's run. You would expect the studios, of course, the people who invest in these movies, to make more money than writers and actors. That's understandable. But the disparaging, the difference, between what they make and what the creatives make and the actors make is very, very worrying. They can use actors' images again and again and again and not pay them for these images. Now SAG-AFTRA have a right to complain. Streaming is viewed on multiple occasions, and these actors are not getting paid each time things are getting viewed. It's a problem. They didn't change the way they did things for streaming. But I still believe the Dune sequel being postponed till next year has nothing to do with these strikes. WB decided to give away those IMAX screenings to Disney. Now, as usual, Disney want to dominate screens, take the screens away from the indie movies and everyone else. They've clearly done a little deal with WB here and probably giving them, here you are, and an incentive to postpone the Dune sequel to next year. But a lot of fans who I've spoken to are very, very upset about this delay. And I believe it's nothing to do with these strikes. I think it's very, very suspicious. As usual, I will be a lone voice in saying this. Everyone believes Access Media. Everyone believes the studios. Why would they do this, Mick? I've just explained to you why they would do this. And, if it is a case of doing this just to give away some IMAX screens, questions have to be asked. Because what would you rather see in IMAX? The Marvels or Dune 2? I don't think you need to answer that question, but please comment down below what you think of this news that the Dune sequel has been postponed till March next year. But I repeat, I do not believe that this movie will be released in March. I think it could still make good money next March. I don't think it's really relevant these days when you release a movie, but I don't think they'll release it then. I think they'll try and move it up maybe to spring or summer, or maybe even late summer of next year. But it is disappointing. It is frustrating for the fans. Even though I can cope with this, and even though I love Villeneuve and I love what he's done with the first Dune, and the trailers for Dune 2 look outstanding, and I would have liked to have seen it this year. It's not one of my most anticipated movies, so it doesn't bother me so much. But I understand why the fans are upset. So just think for a moment if I'm right. And this movie has actually been postponed just so WB can make some green on giving away their IMAX screens to Disney. It sounds to me that this is very, very suspicious, very, very dodgy, And this is the way David Zaslav has been running WB since he's taken over. He shelved Batgirl. Now, I think Batgirl would have been a piece of shit. I admit that. I don't lose any sleep over it. But it was wrong to shelve those directors' movies and those directors' movie. And the first time they found out about it was through the media. It was disgusting the way it was handled. They brought back Henry Cavill only to change their minds about that decision. This is not the way you treat people, but this is the way David Zaslav treats people. It's very, very kind of confusing out there right now, especially when we talk about DC. But what they've done by bringing Cavill back and then reversing that decision, they've created a problem because James Gunn wants to use his own Superman. I get that. I genuinely do. But when you tell the fans something's happening, something that they've been dreaming about, then all of a sudden you tell them, well, you know what? It's not happening. There's a big problem. And this is why James Gunn gets so much abuse. I wouldn't necessarily say he deserves that abuse, but people are frustrated. People are angry. There must be consistency in the entertainment industry. It's something we're lacking right now.